Realizing the truth about Caleb Maupin and contributing my statement to the document exposing him for his abuses was not an easy thing to do, and it was not done lightly. I have known Caleb Maupin and worked with him consistently for the past 8 years, since 2014, when he was a very prominent member of the Workers' World Party. I've consistently defended him and promoted him because I believed he was a genuine anti-imperialist. But when the facts of his horrendous abuses were made clear to me this summer, I realized that this had to come to light, and this could not be swept under the rug, excuses could not be made, and that despite my friendship and comradeship with Caleb Maupin for all of these years, he is not higher than anyone else. He is no better than any of the other comrades. He does not deserve special treatment over the comrades that he has abused over the years. And if I were to just think, oh, Caleb is my friend, he's my comrade for so long, I need to defend him against these allegations, that would be a total betrayal of all of the comrades who he abused in the statement you can see. So that was never an option. The term comrade is not just any other word. It has a significant meaning. It means you have loyalty to these people and struggle. And what Caleb Maupin did shows that he is totally dishonest. He has no principles in reality. As much as he talks all of this stuff about anti-imperialism, socialism, all of this stuff, at the end of the day, and this is a hard pill for many to swallow. It was a hard pill for me to swallow, okay? I've known him longer than most of you trolls out there trying to defend him and attacking me and attacking the others who came out to expose him. I've known him way longer than you faceless trolls, okay? Most of you have never even met him, okay? So this was not done lightly. This was not an easy thing for any of us to do. But the reality is that you need to realize it's a hard pill for you to swallow. It was a hard pill for me to swallow. But what you need to realize is that Caleb Maupin's primary concern is not fighting for anti-imperialism. His primary concern is promoting himself. His primary concern is self-gain and promoting himself at the expense of others. If this wasn't the case, he wouldn't have done what he did. I don't know if you realize, but he is a representative, not only of Center for Political Innovation and all the politics we stand for, patriotic socialism, anti-imperialism, and so on. He's a representative for RT. And he did this stuff as a representative of RT, not giving a damn about what kind of backlash this could have for RT, what kind of backlash this could have for Russia. So this is all on him. This is not on any of us. So all of you clowns those of you clowns out there who want to try and attack those of us who brought this forward, you should really think about this for a minute and stop being idiotic cultists for someone you never met, someone who doesn't give a damn about you, okay? Now, I also want to be clear, despite the few idiotic trolls out there who are trying to make excuses and defend Caleb and make up all kinds of idiotic slander against Joey, Yankee Tanky, for example, against Keaton Mansfield and the others who have come forward, despite those idiotic, miserable trolls who really have nothing better to do with their lives besides defending someone that they never met and someone who doesn't even give a damn about them, despite those few idiots, the vast majority of people have been extremely supportive. So many people have come forward in support of those of us who came forward because they understand reality. They understand that this is the truth and that what Caleb Maupin did is totally unacceptable. And I want to thank all of you for all of your kind words who have come out and supported all of us. And we really appreciate all of your support, and because this was necessary. If we're serious about what we stand for, if we're serious about fighting for socialism and anti-imperialism, we cannot allow this type of stuff to be going on. This cannot be swept under the rug. A lot of people, okay, now some of these people defending Caleb are complete idiots. Other people, I understand this is very big news. This is shocking, and people don't know what to make of this. So we give some leniency to people. You know, there are some people maybe that don't understand the full situation and who will come around to understanding the situation. So I don't want to put everyone in the same boat who is not understanding the situation fully as putting them in the same boat as these idiotic trolls. But some people maybe legitimately wonder why couldn't have this been handled, quote unquote, internally. Well, there were many attempts to do this internally. If you look at the document, this abuse has been going on for years. In 2019, member 1 posted these screenshots and attempted to have this handled internally. She was pushed out of the group and demonized and slandered and lied about. Recently with this, other members have spoken with Caleb one-on-one and tried to resolve their situations with him, and he did what he did. You can read the statements. So this was attempted to be done internally with each person. Now, if you're saying, well, you should have exhausted every avenue before trying to bring this forward, well, look, on one hand, I will say, even myself at certain points, I wished this could have been handled internally. Trust me. Just on a human level, it's very difficult to bring all of this stuff that is so damning of him forward, just being someone who's known him for so long. But I have to put that personal connection aside and look at the facts of what he did. And that's why I contributed my statement to this, and that's why I supported this and supported this coming forward. Because another thing that people don't realize who maybe are questioning why this couldn't have been handled internally, another reason is I think you're sort of just imagining that this could just magically have worked if it was done internally. Do you think really contacting CPI members about this situation, this wouldn't have gotten back to Caleb? I mean, do you really think this magically would have worked out doing it internally, and just the people bringing it forward wouldn't just get pushed out and slandered, which is what he had done to people over the years consistently? How do you think that this would have been handled internally successfully, would have magically all worked out? Now, look, I understand why you wish it could have been done internally, because this is a very difficult situation right now. It's a very painful situation. It's very ugly, but there truly was no other way. And the other fact is that as much as I might personally feel I had this friendship and I considered Caleb to be a comrade for all these years, he does not have some special privilege that his abuses should not be known by everyone. He doesn't get that special privilege to have this swept under the rug and have this be a secret. No. People have the right to know what he did. And anyone saying otherwise is basically defending him, whether you realize it or not. Now, I'm hoping you will realize how ridiculous this is, this idea of this being swept under the rug and people don't have a right to know about it. No, when he's done this, he doesn't get for this to be a secret. Now, at the same time, this is not cancel culture, and anyone trying to claim that this is cancel culture has no idea what they're talking about. If you know myself, you know the channel Flame of Liberation, I am totally against those sorts of things, and this is totally different. And the reason why it's different is because we're not here to just demonize Caleb unfairly. We're bringing forward the facts, and we give credit where credit is due. We're not making a caricature of him, trying to say he's completely pure evil. We realize that he has serious issues and he needs to get help. And he can do the right thing. It's not like he disappears into the abyss. That's not what this is. He does have the possibility to try and improve himself and try and do the right thing. Now, he has lost his ability to lead anything in the future with what he's done, but that doesn't mean that he can't do the right thing and try to improve the situation. He does have the ability to go on the path to rehabilitate himself. Now, to be very clear, when I say rehabilitate himself, and if you look at the document, what others have said, rehabilitate himself, again, that does not mean going back to the position where he was, going back to leading a group or something like that, because it's clear that those days have passed. He has done enough damage and he can never be allowed to do that again. But the bottom line is the first step of rehabilitation is for him to own up, completely own up to what he's done, and he is not doing that. He needs to admit to what he has done, and he needs to stop saying that any of this is lies. It is all 100% accurate. All of the claims in that document are accurate. And I put my name to that statement. Those claims in the document are accurate. There are no lies in them. And we worked very hard to make sure that everything in that document can be backed up by facts, and nothing that was potential hearsay or anything that couldn't be proven was put in there. No, everything in that document is provable, and none of it can be disputed. And that is exactly why Caleb has not put out an argument or a statement trying to dispute any of the facts. All he can do at this point is to say, oh, some of it is true, some of it's not true, and to say that, to try and say we're disingenuous and stuff like that. He's not giving any specific arguments. He's not saying anything. He's not disputing any of the fact. All he's saying is broadly, oh, some of it's true, some of it's not true, because he doesn't want to own up to his abuses. He doesn't want to own up to his abuses. And I hope he will realize that that's the only path forward for him to fully admit that everything is true and not try and attack us, not try to demonize us, but to fully own up to what he has done. That's the only way forward. That's the first step. If he's serious about trying to do the right thing, the first step, the very first step, is for him to own up to what he has done and admit that it is all true. And something else that's very important to realize is that these types of abuses Caleb was committing, they would eventually come out one way or another. If it wasn't us bringing it forward, someone else would. Because if you look at this, it's very clear he has a serious issue and he cannot help himself. He would be continuing to do this. And actually, if you look at the statements, you can understand that what he is doing has been accelerating over the years and getting worse. And so, if this was brought forward by hostile political forces, do you have any idea how destructive it would have been if, say, pro-imperialist forces got a hold of this information and they were the ones to bring it forward? First of all, if that happened, a lot of us would be defending Caleb because of who it is that is attacking him. We would assume it's just some other bullshit. But then eventually it would turn out to all be true, and then we would all be on record defending an abuser, and all of us would have been discredited. So the fact that all of us who signed on to that statement, all of us, each and every one of us, are staunch anti-imperialists is a good thing. And it's a great thing that it was us that brought this forward, because no one can try and claim this for themselves. No one trying to discredit our political stance can do that, because it was us. It wasn't them. They had nothing to do with that. And if they want to attack what we stand for, then they're attacking us. How can they use this and try to discredit anti-imperialism, the optimistic socialism, all the things, quote-unquote, tankies? How can they attack that and claim that they're on our side when it was the people exposing Caleb, the victims, and the people exposing Caleb together? It was us. We are quote-unquote tankies and anti-imperialists. That's our political position. So if they're trying to attack people of that political position, they're attacking us. So they can't claim to be supporting the victims and supporting the people coming forward about this abuse. So we are the ones who own this. We are the ones who brought this forward. And it was the right thing to do. If you're serious about politics, if you're serious about fighting against imperialism, and you don't have the backbone to do what we did, you don't have the backbone or the courage to stand up and say what the truth is, then you should get out of politics. Because if you can't do something like this, if you can't expose abuse within your ranks, then how are you going to stand up to the imperialists? How are you going to stand up to capitalism? How are you going to stand up to the warmongers? How are you going to do that? You have no backbone, you have no spine. And numerous people throughout this ordeal have showed themselves to be extremely weak people with no backbone whatsoever. And those people know exactly who I'm talking about. We could not allow abuse of people who we call to be comrades to be taking place. Even if it was random people who were not our comrades, you can't allow that to take place. How can you claim to be a communist when you do this sort of thing? Read the statements. I direct everyone back to the statements. Now, going forward, as anti-imperialists, as people who fight for optimistic socialism, some sort of new organization will be formed. All of the people who are brought together by Center for Political Innovation, we're not going to disappear. We're still here. We still want to fight for what we believe in. We're not going anywhere. And we're going to continue to fight. It might take some time, but something new is going to form. And people are upset about the situation. And to be absolutely clear, those of us who wrote the statement had nothing to do with the decision by the executive committee to disband CPI. That was their decision. None of us who wrote statements in the document exposing Caleb Maupin were on that executive committee. They were people appointed by Caleb Maupin, and they're the ones who made that decision. Now, going forward as fighting for anti-imperialism, this whole thing in the long run has actually made us stronger. And that's what we need to realize. It has actually made us stronger, because the whole way Center for Political Innovation operated was totally unacceptable if you look at the facts. And people from the CPI executive committee that I've spoken with who have, by the way, contributed a tremendous amount to CPI. I mean, massive amounts. And what Caleb did to them to betray them, I mean, and all the people who contributed money. Caleb really betrayed so many people with what he did. But speaking with these people who have a very good sense, they're on the executive committee, they have a very good understanding of how Center for Political Innovation operated. Center for Political Innovation operated as a corporation. That's something that people don't understand. CPI is ostensibly a think tank. It sort of operates as a party of sorts, but what it actually was a corporation where Caleb was the head, and he made all of the decisions. And even the people on the executive committee had very little input into the situation. One of the people I was speaking with told me how he had repeatedly put forward proposals to actually implement a structure and actually implement a framework for how the hell the group operates, and it was repeatedly ignored. It was never implemented. So what people realize is that CPI was a totally dysfunctional group. Totally dysfunctional. It was a corporation run by one person at the end of the day. And there was no transparency whatsoever. Even the people who were in the executive committee, they tried to make proposals to make it a functioning group so that there's actually like rules and understood operations of how the hell the thing works. And it was repeatedly ignored because Caleb Maupin did not care about that. He wanted to be the one who had all the control of the situation. He wanted it to be a cult, and I'm going to emphasize that he wanted it to be a cult. And people are going to say, oh, how can all these things pointing out, trying to say how it's not a cult, blah, blah, blah. Well, the way it was a cult was that he was trying to use cult tactics. He was trying to separate people from their families. He was trying to keep people isolated from each other and keep people reliant on him for their survival. You look at the stories of what he did to the people in John Brown Volunteers. He did that to keep them in an economically vulnerable situation. He told so many of the members to break away from their family, that their family is responsible for all of their issues, and that they should break away from their family and just do quote-unquote full-time activism, which de facto, as we saw what happened, meant that they were fully reliant on him and living in a terrible situation. So Center for Political Innovation, as much as the politics of it were very positive, and it was good because you look at the other left groups, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And that's why so many of us were drawn to Center for Political Innovation. But in reality, it might be a hard reality to face, but the reality is it was a totally dysfunctional group. And if we actually look at it, it was not actually really achieving much. It did achieve one thing. Which was it brought people together of like mind and very good politics. That's one thing that it did achieve, and that is not going to disappear, because going forward, we will all be continuing to fight for what we believe in, and something new will come about, something much stronger will come about, and we will have learned from this experience. But at the end of the day, Center for Political Innovation was actually not achieving much. What was the best thing we did as Center for Political Innovation? Let's be brutally honest. Let's be completely honest now. The best thing we did was going out in the street with signs saying Russia's not our enemy, China's not our enemy, which is a good thing to do. But what did that actually achieve? 90% of the people would argue with us and fight with us. We didn't actually achieve that much. Now, I'm not saying that was a wrong thing to do or anything like that. I personally did that multiple times. But we were not, when we're in this situation and the sort of cult atmosphere that Caleb was trying to build up, we have an over-exaggerated sense of self-importance, and we need to get rid of that. We need to have a sober understanding of what was actually going on. We were not actually challenging the establishment. That's just a fact. And if we actually were challenging the establishment, if Caleb actually was a challenge to the establishment, they would have, if you look at what he was doing over the years, they would have been able to, the government would have been able to shut him down easily with all of the things that he was doing. But they didn't, because he was not a challenge to the establishment. He was a grifter. He was a scammer. That's the reality of it. He was an abuser. He was not, he may have been interested, some part of him may have been interested in anti-imperialism and socialism, but at the end of the day, that was not his primary concern. His primary concern is what was self-gain, building himself up at the expense of others. And if that wasn't the case, he wouldn't have done what he did. But going forward, all of us are going to continue to fight for what we believe in. Don't let this dishearten you. Don't let this demoralize you. Because this is actually going to make us stronger in the long run, because we're not going to have this abuser within our midst. We're not going to have to deal with this down the road. And if a situation like this arises in the future, it'll be much easier for us to identify. So what I would call for is for everyone who was in Center for Political Innovation, who is able to face reality, who's strong enough to face reality, to stay in contact with each other, try to build something new. It's probably going to take time, but something new will come out of this, and we will succeed in fighting for what we believe in.